My name is Kunal Verma, and I am a registered migration agent, and I'm operating from Aussizz Group Glenroy branch that's in Melbourne. And like every Friday, we where we conduct a live session that's by the name Ask Aussies. And the purpose of having this live session is for the viewers to be able to ask their questions, put across their queries with respect to the migration program, and we would be answering those questions during the session. And if any of the queries would remain unanswered, you can reach out to any of our branches or contact us through the social media platforms, and our migration team or the education team, or any query which relates to our business nature will try and answer, if you would put across to our pages. uh, So I will take a while before people would join in, and then we can have the session moved on so that I can answer the questions for you know anything what's been posted during this live session. Now, as I said, the purpose of having this session is to basically answer questions of the ever evolving migration changes that are happening in Australia. So if you do have any questions which relates to yourself or any of your friends or your family members, this is a platform you can use to get the answers for it. Now, the intention of obviously answering the questions is we can obviously give you a brief explanation, but if you really need any further information, as I mentioned, you can reach out to our branches and speak to the respective specialist, be it in migration or education, and they can give answers to all your queries, your questions, which can help you navigate through this migration or education system of Australia and understand what are the recent changes that has happened, how it can impact your application, and how you can possibly reach to the destination of whichever visa you are intending to apply for yourself or your family members. Um, Before I could really jump on answering any questions and let more people join in, I would like to give you a few updates of the changes that has been recently announced, or the migration program which is for different states. I think that is for the viewers who literally do not have anything to ask, but they are waiting for their invitation from different states. And the fact remains that this year the number of seats that has been announced for skilled migration is very low, and the department has given an update that they will be focusing on the grants of the pending visa applications, and thus the new invitations will not be given to applicants who are waiting for an invite. So the total number of seats for this year have been reduced down to almost 25 to 30% of what it was last year. Now, ideally, if you have an intention of applying for permanent residency in Australia, and you literally see skilled migration was something which you were looking up to and applying, but you see that it is not something which could happen with the reduced number of seats, the best advice as a migration agent I can give to you guys is to consider the option of employer sponsored visas, because that is an option which would still lead to permanent residency, keeping that your occupation is one which is eligible for permanent residency. And if you are working here in Australia in your nominated skill, and that skill is in demand, definitely that option would rather be much less stressful than you working towards points and getting an invitation from the state. So employer-sponsored visas basically are, defined in two subclasses, which is subclass 482, that's called the temporary skill shortage visa, and then the employer-nominated sponsored visa, that's a subclass 186. The temporary skill shortage visa is a temporary visa which you can have, for up to 4 years, depending on the occupation and which list the nominated occupation falls. So it can be either in the medium to long term skills strategic list, or the short term skill strategic list, or in the regional occupation list. Um, The visas can lead to permanent residency option. So if you are on a temporary skill shortage visa or you are looking to get one, you can look at from that visa to move on permanent visa, which is the employer nominated sponsored visa as well. The requirement as of now, which is 3 years of full time experience while you work on a 482, that would make you eligible to apply for 186, which is again a permanent residency option. And we are also looking at updates on the changes in the period of employment that is required. That is for 3 years, which will eventually, if the department would make those changes as announced, that it would get changed to 2 years as it used to be at the time of 457 before. And if those changes are going to be announced, you will see that the new requirements would need you to have 2 years of experience to be eligible to apply for the 186 visa. Now, those changes are going to be implemented to both streams, which would be the direct entry stream or the transition stream, or the changes would only be going to be for the transition stream. We are yet to, get an answer on that. So those changes are yet to happen. But yes, as I started this part, the intention was to tell that if you are looking at permanent residency here and then you think skill migration is not going to work out, you can look at this as an option. Now, we've started to get some questions here. Probably I'll try and answer those questions. And in between, I would also cover up some state nomination program requirements for those who are not clear of what the requirements are. And then they can possibly jump to the comment section and ask their questions as well. And happy to answer those during this session. So we've got Jesus who says, is it mandatory to be invited in Victoria with superior English? Jesus, now this obviously brings in to the specifics of the program, which I would talk about. So Victoria State nomination at this point is inviting very few applicants, and their program is not primarily based on higher points or basically superior English, but it is a combination of several factors, which is what they are inviting applicants on. So the trend, what we have seen is the invitations which are given in the previous invitation rounds by Victoria. They have been considering inviting applicants who do have a skilled partner. So obviously, if you do have a family, your partner who is skilled, or they have got, just the level of English which is called competent, and the points are added in the EOI, then you may be given an advantage over a single applicant. Now, what is the program like for Victoria? What are the requirements? So if you're looking at applying for subclass 190 in Victoria, you can either be in Victoria or you can be offshore. And the basis of invitation, if you're in Victoria, is that if you're claiming any income in the registration of interest, which is the ROI you submit with the state, then that income must be either based on a job which is for a skill level 1, 2, or 3, rather that is related to your occupation or not, is not a requirement for the state nomination program. But if it, considering the number of seats, it is best if you do work in your own skill, because that may add up an advantage for you to get an invite. And the income that you're claiming in the ROI will be the other added advantage. So higher the income, more the probability for you to get an invite. Again, to go back to the question for Jesus, yes, if you do have superior English, that may add up the weightage to your application as well, because that's how we've been seeing the trend as well. But that is just not the only parameter on which you may get an invitation from Victoria. So it could be points, it could be the income which you are claiming for in your ROI. It could be having a skill partner, which is where the skill assessment and competent English, or a partner which has got competent English. Now, these are the factors which may add up to your application. And obviously, the skill which are in higher demands in the state would also get a weightage. So over the last few invitation rounds, what we have seen is that they have not invited all the occupations which have been getting invitations during the time of pandemic, like nurses or social workers or teachers. So those occupations are yet to get invitations, but they are giving invites to ICT applicants, engineers, and other occupations which are on the short-term list as well. So it's not the program is going to be only based for occupations which are health-related occupations, but yes, other occupations which are contributing to the state, and then you are obviously meeting all these requirements we talked about. Uh, you may get an invitation from the state as well. We have got next question from Mubtasim. I said, what is the change of chemist and radiologist be a chance? Mubtasim, any occupation, when you look at, firstly, you have to see what list does it sit in, and obviously, if an occupation is on the medium to long term skills list, then we look at if the state you are looking at applying in, if that state obviously consider that occupation to be in demand for them or not. So if Victoria is not considering, chemist as an occupation, however, they are considering, medical occupations, and most of the states are considering health occupations with them. So there is no asset change, but when you look at the total number of seats for the skill program for this financial year, you would definitely understand that not every skill will get an invite, and the ones which are of higher importance or more demand than these skills, they will rather get picked up first. But since it is a health related occupation, both the occupations you mentioned are health related, and eventually it opens up for all the subclasses of visas, I believe the chances are going to be good enough. Now, what points you're applying with, whether you're meeting the state nomination criteria, those factors would also be taken into consideration before the state is going to invite. Now, as of yet, there has been no round for the federal run, which is subclass 189 skill independent visa. So we're still waiting for invites on that. That would rather give you some assurance if the invitation round happens, let's say, before Christmas, and if they will do a round with a good number of invites, like the way they did it in December 2022. Manvinder is asking, so when South Australia will start invitation, did you guys receive a pre-invite from us? So, Manvinder, South Australia, because I haven't received any invitations for any client, probably that might be there for other migration agents in the organization. But since SA does not start program by inviting applicants as on a specific date, it is individual applications which get invited. But hopefully soon we should see some invitations on which occupation is yours, and if you have submitted the ROI with them, because this financial year South Australia has also come up with the requirement of submitting the ROI, which is as much of an application like the nomination for them. So based on the ROI application, they will be inviting the applicants to lodge the nomination. So if you do meet the eligibility of whichever category you are applying in, then definitely you can consider yourself getting an invite, provided if you meet the requirements for them. Again, states have very high selective criteria for this year. So obviously, if two similar applications would go to them and eventually they will only have to give one seat, they would rather not approve. But South Australia, in my experience over these years, is that they are, they are promising in terms of their migration program. So they do invite a lot of applicants, considering if you are eligible to apply and submit an application with them. The time they will start inviting the applicants who are submitting the ROI and meeting the eligibility. We've got next question from Viranga. It says, I'm a full-time head chef working in Greater Adelaide. I got 2 years full-time experience. How is my possibility for 190 through graduate stream? I got 65 plus 5 points. Viranga, obviously, if you have submitted your ROI and you do meet the requirements of, having worked there for 6 months plus, obviously, and you've been living there for more than 2 years, so that adds up to the requirements. Now, the possibility of getting invitation depends on how many chefs are applying in the state and at what point score they're applying. Considering it's a trade occupation and South Australia do not really focus only on the points itself, knowing that you have been working there for 2 years, if that's what is the situation, I believe you may have a good chance of getting invitation from the state. Considering that your skill definitely is in demand, you have been working for such a long time, which adds up to the commitment towards the state. Maninder is with next question. I have applied EOI for motor mechanic with 70 points, owned for 189, and then submitted for 190, 491 respectively for Victoria and WA. My TR is expiring in January if I didn't get invite, so I'm thinking to take admission to study. Which course is a good option for PR prospect? Maninder, when you look at considering study as an option after you already have a skill, again, as I said before, before you think of getting into study just for the sake of PR, you could eventually look at getting employer sponsored visas as an option, because if you do have a skill and you do meet the requirements of applying the employer sponsored visa, either a 482 or a 186, I believe that is the option you should consider. In case you do not have the minimum experience that's required to apply for these visas, and you're looking forward to develop another skill as well. Depending which state you are in, I believe you are in Victoria based because you've applied for Victoria and WA, which is what you can do while you are in Victoria. I would say that Victoria has obviously good demand of skills such as nursing, demand for skills such as social work, demand for skills, which are teaching, which is teaching. So these are the skills which are in high demand. But ideally, you need to know that coming from a trade and looking at developing a professional skill will not be as easy for you, because you'll have to study, which would eventually be for anything from 1 year up to 2 years to firstly develop that skill and then have a skill assessment for that occupation. And the purpose of having another skill would then add up for you to even find a job in your skill. So that's when, if you're taking up another skill, it is when you would rather want to further pursue your career as well with that skill rather than just doing it for PR. So you think of what you want to do. Otherwise, you do have options of civil construction design, because a lot of states are looking at construction applicants. So you can consider that as an option as well. Speak to the education consultant, or probably get in touch with one of our branches wherein we can do a consultation with you and understand what are your thoughts of developing another skill, and then you should take it from there. Garima, are we expecting any 189 rounds? Absolutely. I think this is a question everybody is really asking these days. Now, I believe the way they have reduced on the number of seats, so yes, there may be round which would happen, but not obviously going to be as big of a round as was happening in the last financial year. But yes, since they haven't done any invitation round so far, I believe there will be something which we would hear soon from department with respect to 189 invitation rounds. Not again, as I said, as big as last year, but we'll see. Obviously, there's no such information they have rolled out or they've given. But let's see when it happens. Obviously, have an EOI for yourself in the system, and obviously keep the expectations on, so that if the round happens and if your point score is going to get picked up, then you will get invited. Gus Rahman, engineering technologist, 80 plus 5 points, Victoria, working as a manager in some business. What chances of the percentage? So Gus Rahman, I believe as an engineering technologist, even if you are working, you said you're working as a manager, which is obviously a skill. If it is a skill level 1, 2, or 3, as per ANSCO, and your job duties are in line with any of the ANSCO profiles which you have claimed the income for, you may get an impression. Again, I mentioned this at the beginning of this live session as well, that Victoria does not only consider one parameter, that's a combination. So if you do, let's say, have a scale partner, you may even get picked up with these points, even if your income is less, because we have got invites for our clients wherein they have got points which are 80 or 85, and their income levels were basically were even below the threshold, but they do have a scale partner. And we've seen invitations for applicants who have been with higher income, which is over 100,000, and they have got invited even while they are single. So I think this is a pretty straightforward answer for the question you've asked. So if you think you are having any of these parameters, you may have a chance of getting invited from Victoria. Aishwarya Deshpande, what are the chances of advertising specialist in Victoria for this financial year? Ishwarya, we have seen invitations coming, for, as I said, for occupations which are not only on the medium to long term, and not only for health education sector. Recently received an invite for an occupation which is absolutely it's related to financial investment advisor, which is again in the short-term skills list. And if those occupations, if we see marketing specialists are also getting invited, so which is a good sign that Victoria is considering applications across a lot of occupations, but not primarily only from nurses, teachers, or social workers. Bharat, I've applied for my visa in trade occupation metal machinist for South Australia 491 9 months back. When can the visa be granted? Bharat, the visa duration, the processing times for 491 is obviously a bit more than subclass 189 or 190. And I mean, we are, you can look at the standard processing periods to see what sort of timelines it is showing. And to me, it looks like your application is within the processing timelines. But yes, it is taking around 12 months for the lot of applications we have submitted as well. There are always exceptions when you see your friends or other people would be talking on no, their visas have been granted much quicker. But the majority of the application, as how even the department demonstrates on their website, that 90% of the applications get processed in certain timelines, and which would be considered as standard processing period for those applications. We've got next question which says recently was granted PR. If I want to call my partner on visitor visa, what processing time and what are the required documents? Now we do get this sort of queries a lot of times with the clients who are permanent residents or Australian citizens, and they look forward to get their partners here, because obviously that's the option you would consider for your partner to apply for a partner visa. And eventually, the intention you have is obviously to get them here to understand first your lifestyle, see if obviously they want to settle down here with that lifestyle, and then eventually then you consider applying for you may look at applying for a partner visa. Anytime you look at applying for a visitor for anyone who is a family member, or anyone who is visiting you, the department looks at the incentives for them to go back. Now, they can be several ways of showing it. You have to look at the incentives by means of employment, which they have back home, incentives by means of the assets they have back home, incentives by means of the family, like their parents or siblings, which they have back home, or any other commitment which you could demonstrate, and that would become the basis for them to that they may get a visa. Obviously, anything and everything, would be based on individual circumstances, and that's what you should consider when you're putting an application for a visitor visa. The timelines could possibly be anything, from 3 to 6 weeks that you would get the visa processed, the visitor visa application, and from that point, obviously, if the intentions are to look at partner visa, then you can look at the processing timelines for the partner visas as well. And with respect to the required documents, obviously there's a checklist. You can reach out to us or any other branch of Aussizz and speak to one of our team members, and they can obviously tell you what the process is and discuss further requirements. We've got our next question from Hardik. What are the chances of industrial pharmacist in next round? I've applied EY in all states. So from which state will I get invited quickly with 75 points for subclass 489? I think I believe you are, obviously, if you put an application for every state, at first, if you're in Australia, you cannot apply for every state because there are restrictions of, except I would say Western Australia, which is, accepting applications from interstate applicant. I don't see any other state which is, keen on inviting interstate applicants, because to apply for the 491 subclass, which is obviously you mentioned 489, so it's 491 subclass now. That requires you to either be in the state and meet the state nomination criteria, or you're applying from offshore. So if you are applying from offshore, there are certain states who even do ask for you to apply specific UI for them, so that they will know that your intentions are to be moving in their state rather than just submitting an EUI for all the states in one EUI, which would rather show that you're not very keen on moving to a specific state. Again, the pharmacist occupation is, we've seen invites in the last financial year from Victoria and other states as well. But as I mentioned, the state nomination criteria is pretty specific. You would need to wait for or review the information on every state to understand their specific requirements and if you're meeting those requirements. And if you do meet those requirements, then they may send you an invitation, considering, as I said, if you're an offshore applicant. But if you're an interstate applicant, ideally, you may not even get an invite except from the state which you are in, and if you meet the requirements for that. We've got next question regarding the international police check before the invite. Well, look, there are timelines or validity periods for every document which you provide to the department. Similarly like police checks. So yes, you can get one done, provided if you are considering to travel after the lodgement, and if that may require that you would have to provide another police check if asked for, then you'll have to redo it. But yes, knowing the validity of those documents, let's say overseas police checks for certain countries are eligible or are they are valid for 6 months. For certain countries, it's valid for 12 months. So accordingly, you can upload a document, and if you're not traveling, department may not even ask for another police check. But yes, to save on the time after you get the invitation, you can have these documents ready beforehand. We've got Karthik says, I have received Queensland SBU invitation in May 2020 and S56 in July 23. When can I expect my grant after? We look S56 requirements, Karthik, when they are sent, the file at times gets pushed back in the queue, obviously because they'll have to go through your requirements once again, and then S56 once being sent does not literally mean you cannot get another further requirement from the department. So there have been cases in the past, we've seen that once one S56 was given and the documents were provided by the applicants, the department further have gone into the application to find out there were more discrepancies and they've asked for more information. But if everything what has been asked for and you see there is nothing what they would ask for, again, timelines can vary. It could be from few weeks to few months. And now you've applied for more than a year ago, which means obviously the application should get processed sooner, unless they would come back and ask you for anything else. So again, I believe there wouldn't be a specific answer to how long it is going to take. But since an application has already gone beyond the processing period because it was launched in May 2022, I think you can request the department on further update as of to what's going on with the application and if they need any further information on this. We've got next question from Nitesh. Now he's saying he's got 85 points for 189 and 90 points for 190 as a chemical engineer, currently employed in WA. How good are the chances for this year? WA would receive more allocations for this year. So Nitesh, WA has always been requesting for more seats. They've always looked as and when the program for them is, or the seats for them are about to finish, they look at requesting the department of allocating them more seats. Now, again, the answer to the question with respect to your chemical engineering occupation, it's just that if you do meet the requirement of having while you're working there, which is obviously a strong basis for you to have the invitation. And W has obviously invited. We have seen recently they are focusing a lot on the construction sector, and a lot of people who have got invitations from them, which was for the civil construction design occupation as well. So they've invited them. Now, while they would move from inviting applicants from the construction sector and invite more applicants, anyone and everyone would have an equal opportunity of getting an invite, but their preference would stay on the skills which are in higher demand in the state. So ideally, they have clarified that bit. They would be focusing on skills which would be in higher demand, which would be hospitality, the construction sector, health, and the occupations that's been specified on the website. I think just see if there is anything what's left from your end to increase the points, because as and when the comparison would happen to anyone which is in your occupation, have applied, they would definitely look at the applicants who have got, let's say, a higher point score, uh, then inviting you as an individual, which is, your application that's been submitted at 80 points. 85 is what you said, which is 90 points. Again, I would believe that's a good score to expect an invite at. But yes, if it's something when they would move from the critical skills or the demanded skills, that's when you can expect an invite. Uh, the other part which I wanted to touch on, is the uh, state nomination program for New South Wales as well, because that's one state which has clearly this year, because that's another state apart from Victoria which has the higher allocation of seats. Now, if you see that they have also this year mentioned that they will be focusing on target sectors, and they will be prioritizing the EOIs that have been submitted on the target sectors, which include the health sector, education, ICT, and infrastructure during the remediations. Now, if your skill is, among one of these target sectors, please be mindful that there would still be a lot of applicants in New South Wales among these sectors itself. So you would still have to demonstrate that you have got higher points, because New South Wales do consider applications with higher points itself. Again, other requirements for the state nomination, you would have to meet likely the residency in the state for 6 months and above. And obviously, if you are working in the state, any points claim that you have got in your expression of interest for the skill employment, just make sure that you do have got experience assessed through them. Now, the other bit which New South Wales also clarified was they are going to be inviting, or they may invite applicants who are from the non-target sectors as well. So it's not only the target sectors occupations will get invited, but other target sectors occupations may get invited as well. While your EOI is the one which is with the highest point in that stream. So let's say if you're putting a 190, and then the state is inviting the applicant with around 95 points, and you are at 95 points, then you may still have a chance of getting invited. So they haven't really closed their doors for any non-target sectors, but the focus would rather remain on this sectors itself. The other bit which I wanted to touch on is the nomination program from again WA itself, because Western Australia we do get a lot of clients, especially from the construction sector, those who have been moving from different states to WA because of the invitations the state is giving. You need to make sure that you are meeting the requirement, because a lot of people who apply for WA, and when they believe they will get the 190 invite, the state for the nomination program do require you to provide a job offer or a contract which is for the an offer which is for the next 6 months. So ideally, the exception here is only the construction sector applicants who do not require to demonstrate or show that they have an employment contract. But other applicants who are applying for Schedule 2 and they have got the invitations, even for Schedule 1, they are required to provide the employment contract. So again, they've listed the requirements for every occupation in specific on their website now, while they have changed their website wherein their specific occupations are able to find out what are the streams they can apply for. So just be mindful that you would need to provide, if you need to provide an employment offer letter in the format which they've specified. Even if you've invited, you've got certain days, which is 28 days to submit the nomination, and that should have those documents. So they're particular about your movement as well with the state, that you have moved in the state. A lot of clients really have shown that they have moved in the state, or they have shown that they have got address in WA while they have not actually moved in there. So just be mindful, the state would ask you for the documents which would confirm that you're from the date you have submitted the EOI, your address was for WA because you have shown that in the expression of interest. So they would ask you for the proofs, which could be your day of ticket of travel, documents which you have shown them for the residency would start from that point. So this is important for the nomination, applications which you're submitting. Otherwise, that may lead to refusals. Now, before I could let you guys go, the final bit I would touch on would be again the state of Victoria. As you know, a lot of applicants do consider the Victorian state, and then we do get questions. So, 190491, the applications can be submitted for Victoria from applicants who are within the state, as well as if you're offshore. So, offshore applicants are not required to show a job if you don't, because they're not claiming any incomes in the ROI. So you obviously have to make sure that you have an intention of settling down in Victoria as a state, and you want to obviously migrate to this state and have further live here for at least 2 years once your visa has been granted. So for subclass 190 applicants who are applying from onshore, you are required to work in a skill level occupation, which is skill level 1, 2, or 3 as per ANSCO. Now that is when you're claiming your income. So pretty much you need to make sure that the job which you're doing should be in one of the ANSCO levels, 1, 2, or 3. Because otherwise, if you're claiming any income which is for an occupation which is not meeting the ANSCO skill level, then you may get a refusal for your nomination. Now, for 491, it is no longer the same as it was by the end of last financial year. You are required to be living and working in a regional of Victoria to be able to put an application for 491 here. Otherwise, if you're applying from offshore, you can apply as well. But if you're in Australia, you're in Victoria, then you're applying by living and working in regional Victoria. Again, the requirements are that you need to be working into a job which is skill level 1, 2, or 3. Uh, it could be your nominated occupation or not, but the preference is that if you do have a nominated occupation job, it would definitely add up to your probability of getting an invite. So yeah, if you guys have any further questions, you can leave the comments or pretty much get in touch with the respective branches in the states you are. And we'll obviously be coming next week again for the Ask Aussie session, wherein you can keep your questions ready and ask any questions. I believe the invitation rounds are not going on as aggressively as it was last financial year. So definitely, the recommendations are to look at other visa options if you think you're not meeting the requirements for skilled visa, and you've not got enough visas left as well. Till then, thank you so much for the viewers who have put on their questions here, and I wish everyone all the very best. Have a great weekend. Thank you.